Hey friends, Dave Burkus here. Welcome back to the Daily Burk. Today we are answering the question, how many hours a week should you work? Or how many hours a day should you work? And this is a really kind of timely topic. In the past couple of weeks, there have been stories from superstar CEOs boasting about how all of their people are expected to work 80 to 100 hours a week because they're trying to change the world. And then other books coming out from CEOs who are notable for pushing their people to work less hours every single week. And it begs this actual question, like how did the standard become 40 and what should the right standard be? Well, how the standard became 40 was actually relatively easy. There's a couple different stories about Henry Ford and whomever, but really it was some labor laws from the late 1930s in the US that really established 40 hours a week as a regular, reasonable period of time. Now, what do we know about that period of time? I mean, think about it. What do we know? Well, we know that was a time where people were working 12, 14-hour shifts in factories, where children were working in factories, where women and, everybody was trying to work, trying to beat their way out of poverty and the depression. There were factories taking advantage of it. And so somebody had to come in and go, okay, what is the reasonable amount of time we could expect like the human body to do industrial level work, and beyond that is reasonable. And while we're making those laws, let's make some ones for the kids too, because this is just disgusting. So that was the period of time that we sort of convalesced around this idea of 40 hours a week. And fast forward almost 100 years, the nature of work has changed dramatically to where people are doing what Peter Drucker would call knowledge work, what I would actually call creative work. Most people in the economy in North America, but in really any developed country, are doing work that involves solving problems, figuring out systems, that involves creativity among all else. And so we should be thinking, okay, it's a different type of work, let's reevaluate this. Now, two studies kind of come to mind when I think about this. The first is that one thing that we know from a myriad of research is that when it comes to this creative work, more hours does not necessarily mean better. In fact, one of my favorite studies comes from a group of researchers led by one from Stanford University that showed that after about 55 hours a week, any increase was actually sort of a decrease in production, where people who were working 70 hours a week were just as effective as people who were working 55 hours a week, which kind of makes you think about these people boasting about 80 to 100 hour weeks. Well, you're actually only doing as much as any human is capable of doing in like 50 to 55 hours. So it's great that you're wasting time at the office and all, but you're not really getting work that creates value done. Now, another line of research suggests that, we're talking about creative work, we're talking about knowledge work, that people can kind of work in bursts with deep focus in this creative task for about 90 minutes, and then they need to take a break. So you start doing the math, okay, 90 minutes, then a little break, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour meeting, etc. And really, if you think about how many cycles of that could you get through in a day, yeah, you could get through 4, but you probably couldn't, right? Because you're gonna have meetings, you're gonna have lunch breaks, you're gonna have client calls, etc. So really, I think you shoot for 2 to 3 of those deep work cycles of about 90 minutes per day, and then you can kind of fill the rest of the day with whatever meetings or calls that you have. We're honestly talking about 6 or 7 hours of really productive, effective time every single day. If you're expected to be at the office for 8 hours because we've inherited all of those things from the 1930s, then I totally get it. But know that, like, unless you're doing that deep focused 90-minute spurts, you're probably not going to be all that effective. What does this mean in terms of the overall week? Well, we're looking at something that looks a lot less than 40 hours a week. We're looking at maybe 35, maybe 32, maybe even 30 hours. And suddenly these companies that are actually boasting about how their people actually work Monday through Thursday or what have you, start to look a whole lot more reasonable. We need to separate out this idea that in a knowledge or creative work economy, presence equals productivity. It just doesn't. Understand how you work, for how long of a period of time do you need focus, which is probably going to be 60 to 90 minutes. Get as many repetitions of that in a day as you can, that's reasonable, but recognize that that's really probably going to be 2 or 3. And then after that, any additional time is not actually all that productive. Don't boast about how many hours a week that you work, because we know that if it's more than 55, you're ineffective. Honestly, start boasting about how much value you create in the short amount of time that you work. And I think things will go much better for you, for your sanity, but I think people are going to begin to appreciate that. Who can create the most amount of value in the shortest period of time? That, not the number of hours a week that you're putting in, is going to be the new thing to brag about in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Thanks so much for watching this episode of The Daily Burk. Leave a comment. Let me know, do you want to admit it? Let me know how many hours a week you work in the comments below and whether or not that's working for you. And while you're leaving that comment, make sure you are followed or subscribed to the show because we are posting new episodes of The Daily Burk every single weekday designed to help you do your best work ever. And I want to make sure that you don't miss them. So click that follow, click that subscribe on whatever platform that you are watching this on. And we'll see you tomorrow, if tomorrow's a weekday.